What's happening? What's going on? Y'all know what's going on right here. Welcome back to the bridge, man. We're redirecting ignorance with positive awareness. Um, let's get relaxed, man. It's gonna be a show today. I like to get straight to it. Me bringing awareness to the parents, like I always say, the parents, the youth, the guys inside the prison, and um, society in general. Today's topic we're going to talk about, because I was asked this question, um, how hard was it for me to transition as a youth into the prison system after I got my time? Um, and I'm gonna be straight up with you. It was when I first got my time, and they said that I was sentenced to a life sentence. I was stunned. It's like my whole body went cold. I'm like, what? I'm like, I couldn't believe it. Like, I was numb. And I remember going back to the county jail, and I was laying down, and I was looking out the window, and I remember um, seeing guys that, on Rice Street, you can see the front of the county jail, and I'm seeing guys either bun out or they was um, allowing them to go home, self bun out or whatever. And I seen them running out, and I seen them running to their cars and just being free. And I remember telling myself, like, wow, like, you won't see this again. Like, you might not ever get out again. You might not ever be free again. And I remember tears just rolling down my eyes, because I'm like, I know this can't be true. Like, I was in denial, like, no, this couldn't be true. And it was true. I came back, before I went to court, I was already in the system for a case that I already had, an old case. So I was taken back to prison, to one of the prisons. And it's so crazy that what I'm telling you about now, the prison that I went back to, it's the same prison, 30 years later, that I paroled from, that I got out from. And, when I went back, I was numb. It's like I had to think, like, damn, is this what I call home now? Now, let's speak about this now. I was 19, I had just turned 20. And now I'm going to prison. A lot of grown-ups or whatever, all the people, how you hear about the things that goes on in prison. And I'm still young, Let's think about this now. We say that females mature more than or faster than males. And with me just turning 20, even though I was in the street doing certain things, getting money, whatever, hustling, mentally, I hadn't matured yet. You know what I'm saying? So, it takes us a little time. So I don't know if we'll agree that it takes a male to 23, 24 to actually mature where he needs to be. As still a youth, because 24 is still young. But imagine me having to mature, not in society, but in prison. So I go to prison, you know what I'm saying? And like I say, I'm numb. And I had to accept the fact that for a long time, this is gonna be home. And I had to think about, how was I gonna treat my environment? How was I gonna treat my home? That's really what I had to think about. But I couldn't really think about it like that, because I wasn't quite settled in yet. I didn't know what my environment hit like, you know what I mean? Like, I was nervous. I can't lie, I was nervous, kind of scared. Like, man, how this gonna go down? You know what I'm saying? But I wasn't petrified, you know, because I've been going to hood. The hood ain't really know nobody trying to give me some money when I was young. So, you know what I'm saying? I wasn't petrified, but I was a little nervous. You know, let's kind of max out nervous a little bit. Not quite scared, but nervous. And when I got into, you know, the system, I think my first prison was Hancock. Yeah, Hancock State Prison. And if you think about it, back in the early 90s, that was the crack era. And that was one of the deadly eras, you know what I'm saying? Like, it changed our community, it changed our mindset, just like this gang thing doing now. You know, they throwing away the key, you know what I mean? So it was a lot of us young guys, just like it is now. A lot of us young guys that was in prison, but there was a lot of old heads that was still in prison. You know what I'm saying? And, you know, we had to try to understand the OGs and understand the old heads and try to learn some certain things. But the worst thing that could have happened to me was that I was led to believe that I couldn't find joy or happiness while being in prison. You know what I'm saying? Like, I had to be a certain way, and I was groomed like this. I matured into this, you know, this person that had to always be, you know, tough, had to always be mean, had to always be on guard. You know, you couldn't play, because if you play a certain way, you know, the OG's gonna be telling you, hey man, you must wanna be here, man. You must love this. You like this or something? You need to be going to law library, or you need to be doing this or doing that. You know, and what they was insinuating really was, you need to be frustrated. You need to be sad. You need to be mad. You need all of the down emotions they taught us as youth, as we were maturing in the system. And, you know, I was very athletic, you know what I'm saying? So I was able to get through the system athletically, you know, playing the sports, and I was, you know, favored because how good I was in sports. But I was missing my family, man, you know what I'm saying? Like, I wasn't even really just missing the streets, I was missing my sister, you know what I'm saying? Like, it was, like I said again, a lot of, you know, woulda, shoulda, coulda going on, and, you know, my daughter, you know what I'm saying? Like, I went thinking I was protecting my family, you know what I'm saying? Like, I was threatened. So, you know, I'm the type that if you threaten me, I believe you. You know what I'm saying? You tell me something, I'm gonna believe you. Like, okay, well, you say you're gonna give me $10, then okay, I believe you're gonna give me $10. I'm gonna be expecting it. You say you're gonna bring harm upon me, then I believe it. Then I'm gonna get at you, shit, before you get at me. You know what I'm saying? So that's pretty much how it happened. And the jurors, I guess it was like, okay, we can knock two birds out with one stone. You know what I'm saying? Like, one gone, and we'll just send the other one away too. Because everybody thought that I was gonna win my case. Even the judge, you know what I'm saying? Like, they was kind of baffled, like, huh? When they came back with a guilty verdict, you know. But being in that system and growing, you know, maturing in that system, it wasn't mentally healthy, you know, because that's something I had to adapt to this lifestyle and forget about. This is the sad part about it. I had to forget about society. With that type of time, you know, you have to forget about society, because society really no longer exists in your life. This is your life right here. This is your home. This is where you're gonna be for a stretch, if not forever. You know what I'm saying? Like I said in the last episode or whatever, you know, it was a lot of lonely nights, you know, that you really can't even speak on. You really can't express that. You can't show that soft part of you, you know, because I don't know why society and why we was brought to feel like, okay, you know, men don't have a soft part or a soft spot. You know, women only has that. And if a man expresses this, then, you know, the word, you know, y'all abuse words when y'all start bringing like sassy, you know, or he's acting too feminine because he expresses emotions. So we don't indulge and tamper with those type of emotions because you can't tamper with those emotions while you're in prison amongst a lot of men with all this testosterone and all this stuff going on. And, you know, everybody want to try to dictate something, you know, and stick their chest out. So, you know, you got to stick your chest out a little further than the next man because it's very possible your chest will get sunk in and you'll be a victim to a lot of things that's, you know what's going on. You know what I'm saying? So, you're not gonna be able to live like that. And I refuse to live like that. I wasn't gonna live. I had to try to think, okay, how you gonna do this time? How you gonna do it? You know what I'm saying? Like, are you gonna be a Christian? Are you gonna be, you know, a Muslim? You know, and I was neither one because I don't play with God. Even as a youth, I never played with God. You know what I mean? So, hold on. So I never played with God. You know what I'm saying? So, I was like, I'm gonna be me, a grown man. I'm gonna grow into a man in here, and I'm gonna do what I want to do, how I want to do it, when I want to do it, whatever it is that I can do to make my time easier for me. That's what I'm gonna do. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna, you know, I got my partners. I'm from Atlanta. I got my partners. We gonna kick it. You know what I'm saying? This, that, another. I'm gonna ball. You know, it's in my head. Hey, man, look, you got to do a stretch. So you got to do it the best way you can do it. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, I did what I had to do. You know, I got some stories, you know what I'm saying, some hidden stories of me either protecting myself, not from no sexual type shit. I never had to go through that because it's the way that you carry yourself. People ain't gonna come at you like that. But the respect, if you don't have that respect, then you're gonna get ran through and ran over and you're not gonna have nothing. So the respect factor that I had to initiate, you know, off the top, like, here, I'm him. Like, I ain't none of them. So don't play with me like that. And it wasn't I was a tough guy and I'm the biggest dude. I'm trying to, because I was a little slim dude, real skinny, you know what I'm saying? Just balling, running up and down the court and playing football and baseball and all this. But at the same time, you're not going to run over me. You know what I'm saying? Like, nah, I'm not one of them. So, but I'm going to say this. But when a person is outside of, you know, it's two faces now. Don't let them fool you. It's two faces. You're going to be the same person. And yes, you do have the mask that you have to put on outside your cell. But inside your cell, you know, with the doors locked and possibly a knife on the side, you know, it's like you have to settle down and you have to take that mask off. You know what I'm saying? And when you take that mask off, that's when other emotions start to stir. The loneliness start to kick in. You know what I'm saying? Like this, when you think about your family, you think about your girl, you think about your kids, you think about the things that you was doing or could have done. And a lot of times, you know, you shed tears. You know, a lot of times you shed tears, you know, and you hid. You know, you hid behind that door. A lot of people don't see those tears. I remember nights when, you know, I might be in my bed, you know, or in my room, and I might hear somebody be like, just scream, you know, for no reason, or just holler for no reason. And I learned while doing time that was a release. That ain't him going crazy. That's just a release because it's on him. You know, the time is on him. He's trying to deal with it. And it's hard. It's mentally hard. It's mentally hard to even keep your sanity when I remember times when I go to the hole, to confinement, and I remember a couple of times that the walls closed in on me, and I used to hear about that, but I'm like, I don't know about that, you know what I'm saying? Like, the walls closing, how do the walls just close in on you? You know what I'm saying? Like, but it did, and it was scary because I couldn't leave the room. Like, I went through a stage of having claustrophobia, and the walls was closing, and I had to shake it off. Like, hold up, E, come on, hold up, Silk, get it right, Silk. Hold on. What's wrong? Get it right. It's okay. And it was hard to be okay when you can't leave this room. And this room is a real 6x9. And some rooms I've been smaller than that. So those walls are closed on you. And you can actually go crazy. I'm talking about for real crazy. I don't know what your crazy is, but I know what my crazy is and the crazy that I've seen. And it don't play. You know what I'm saying? So I've had a couple of times when the walls closed in on me and I had to buck it. I had to come up out of it. And it was tough trying to keep your sanity because everything, it's a mental thing more than a physical thing, believe it or not. Because you can take care of yourself physically, but it's the mental aspect. The mental exercises, if you don't mentally exercise, of keeping your mental, right, keeping your sanity, having an understanding, knowing that you're living, that it's gonna be okay, like it's only momentarily. And I'm only saying only momentarily, not your stay in prison, but your stay in the environment or the situation that you're in, whether it be the hole, whether it be that room that you're in, and they're gonna open the door at 5 o'clock. You know what I'm saying? Because you gotta understand something. It's confinement when you go to the hole. You're gonna be in there, 24/7. Sometimes you're gonna have 23. You get a shower hour, but a lot of times they ain't gonna let you out that room. You want to stay in there and find something to do. Like, it is what it is. So if it's like the streets, you know what I'm saying? Like, if you're doing wrong, then you have to prepare for a rainy day, like putting your money up and this, that, and other. And I can't lie, the way I chose to live while I was there, I had to make sure I was good with my money. I had to have books, you know what I'm saying? Because I knew the things that I was doing could lead me to the hole. So I'm like, well, I better make sure I got some books. I'm not gonna even read the books while I'm out, but not me talking myself up to the hole. But if you're doing, come on now. You know what I'm saying? Like, come on, you're doing wrong, and you're not abiding by the rules, whether it's inside or outside. It's very, very possible that you're gonna go to the hole or you're gonna go to jail. You know what I'm saying? So you have to prepare yourself for that. And that's what we do. That's what I did, and that's what we do. When you decide to live that life. And I know you can sit back and you'll be like, damn, you locked up and you were still trying to live like this? You know what I'm saying? You still on that type of time? Yeah, this is my home. This is where I am. And if you abide by all the rules that they're talking about, you're going to be a robot because they don't give a fuck about you. They don't care about you, period. You can't be fooled by these programs that they're getting paid for. And you have a few of them, but you got to understand this, that through their briefing and through the training they have is not to give a fuck about you, not to listen to you, not to trust you, not to have no formal relationship with you, period. You are trash, you're nobody, you're a number. So this is the attitude that they're coming in with. So what? If you consider yourself being a grown man, then you're gonna conduct yourself as a grown man by any means. I mean, some guys gonna be robbing. The same things go on the street. Things gonna go left. There's a lot of left going on in there. I mean, y'all see videos, and this is why I try to do my best to keep the youth or whomever from going left to end up in a situation like that. You know what I'm saying? Because I know, what been through, and I was like a poster boy. You know what I'm saying? Like, love by both sides. I don't have no skeletons in my closet. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can't check my resume, my prison resume, and be like, oh well, I don't knock nobody's sexual preferences or none of that. But I'm talking about me. You can't go back and ask people or say, well, was he or was he? And you say, well, he was messing around and with other men. Oh, hell no. Hell no. Check my resume. Hell no. I don't find nothing attractive about another man. Never have, never will. Did he rob? Did he tell? Did he do any of these things? No, I didn't do check it. None of this. I was a stand-up dude. Still is. Did I get some money? Yeah. Yeah, I did. Was I indulging in relationships, COs, whatever, however you want to put it, COs? Yeah. I mean, because it was my life. You know what I'm saying? It was my life. I wasn't trying to trick nobody. I was being straight up. You know what I'm saying? Like, I felt like this is my home. Like, I know you're not taking it away. I know I really gave it to you because you didn't just come snatch me up. I had to do something to be there. But damn, what you expect? Everything, you know what I'm saying, it's prohibited. Like, nah, you telling me no, and as a man, you telling me no, and it's my home, and you just coming into my home, and you telling me, well, you're not gonna ever, be able to be intimate with a woman again. You're not gonna ever be able to have relationships. You're not gonna ever be able to get a hug outside of visitation, and when your family come and this, that, and other, or your girlfriend, if she hang on, with you while you doing whatever you do, while you doing this time, you can get a hug then. Hell no, like, nah, bro, I'm not rocking like that. Like, if I see somebody that's attractive, that I'm attracted to, yeah, I ain't trying to trick nobody. It might sound like I was trying to trick somebody because that wasn't allowed. You know what I'm saying? But it is what it is. You step into my home, you know what I'm saying? It is what it is. But yeah, I lived my transition was being a man. And I matured in that, and I had to learn. But my biggest thing while I was in that would really just, it's two things that really just hurt me. What I said, was me hustling and getting money. I respected other people's hustle. Whether they was fixing radios and fixing this, and I wish I would have learned that. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I could have brought this out, but me being the person I am, trying to respect hustles and be, and help other people. And, you in there and you at a certain status, trust and believe, we have statuses in there just like you have statuses out here. When you be in one of the ones top status, then you dictate. You actually do dictate. And I did a lot of dictating. And it wasn't just me dictating for me, for selfish reasons. It was me dictating for the betterment of the whole dormitory. You know what I'm saying? So, I ain't just got out and was like, okay, well, I'm gonna start preaching and try to, and I'm not really preaching. I'm really just trying to give you some awareness of what I went through, so you don't have to go through it, and let you really know what's going on inside, and let the guys know what's going on outside since I'm out here. But I was doing the same thing once I came into age to understand, you know what I'm saying? Okay, boom, this ain't the move. You know what I'm saying? Like, hold on, I got to stop. All this sports stuff and all this other, it's cool, but hold on, because they started letting people go. And I'm like, shit, I want to go home. Like, I got the possibility. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not a no with me. So I started understanding, I started seeing, just like the streets, how it started turning over and the attitudes. And, these guys coming into the system. So I'm like, hold up, we don't rock like that. Like, hell no. What y'all got going on? Look, let me tell you something, partner. You know what I'm saying? This is how we rock. And I came about it differently than I was groomed. I was groomed different than my grooming to the youth that was coming up under me in the system. You know what I'm saying? Like, I spent a little bit more time. When I taught my respect, I was well respected. So when I taught, it was like E.F. Hutton. People have really actually listened rather than administration. Never told shit, nothing. But they would listen to me. You know what I'm saying? Because I can explain logic. I can explain the simple things that they tried to make major when it wasn't actually major. You know what I'm saying? Like, I could really allow people to understand through my words and my heart, because I speak from my heart. You know what I'm saying? I just don't make up something, just talk about, oh, I'm gonna say this and I'm gonna say that. No, like now I speak from my heart. So a lot of people respected me, but I wish I would have learned how to do a lot of things. They did have trades at first, but they took all that out. They didn't want us to learn that. They didn't want to pay the teachers or whatever. Yeah, I wish I would have understood the politics of prison and how to get out of prison. And the main thing really was to get your security dropped, to go to lesser security camps, because then they can trust you more. Then they can see that you're getting better. But as long as you're at these level 5 camps, and these killing camps, then if you making parole, you getting out, it's gonna be slim to none. You know what I'm saying? So, those couple of things I hate that I didn't get it right. You know what I'm saying? So, but all in all, transitioning from a youth to an adult in the prison system, and then finally making it out, it took a toll on me. Something that I didn't want to admit, because I was like, man, listen, I ain't gonna have these folks talking about me or laying up with my sister, you know what I'm saying, house, laying on her couch, feet smelling like Fritos, and don't have a job, and boyfriend talking about, man, when your brother gonna leave? Cause he drinking up all the kids' juicy juice, and he eating up all the food. It ain't go out like that. It's a whole nother scenario like that. But no, I said I wasn't gonna do none of that. It's just my imagination of saying,